Side real quick before we move on to the other teams. Of course, we know that Damian Lillard got waived by the Bucks. There's reports out right now saying that the Celtics and the Lakers are like the closest teams to trying to make a deal to
Oh,
try
and in Golden State, he might go back home.
So we got those three major teams in the works right now to try to obtain Lillard. We don't have to really dissect on this until we get some clear-cut, concrete decisions that's made. But out of those three teams, where would you like him to be the most?
Between Golden State, Boston, and what was the last team?
The Lakers.
The Lake.
Everybody tuning in, man. Leave a comment down below.
I don't want him in LA.
Lead those three teams. Where you think Dame?
If I'm being honest, I would love. Now this is gonna be nasty, obviously, because
Boston bias. Everybody's gonna say
no. I'm glad you said that because I wasn't going with Boston. I was going with the Warriors. He goes back home. He's in the Bay. He's not going to start the season. So I want to make sure everyone that's watching and everyone understands, regardless of where Dame goes, whether he signs sooner or he signs during the season, he's not going to play until probably after All-Star break. Unless his rehab is going so great where he can actually get on the court faster. I don't see that being the case. I don't see them rushing him back, whichever team he signs with, and him and his team around him. So with that being said, he can go to Golden State, go back home. He's from the Bay Area, from Oakland. He always wanted to be closer to home. He didn't want to be in Milwaukee, to be honest, before the trade. So money's not really the biggest issue for him because he's going to get paid his $22.5 million throughout from Milwaukee. So he could sign a mid-level exemption or a veteran deal with any team and still have that money coming in on the back end. I think the Warriors would be a great thing to see. I mean, you have two of the best shooters, arguably, in this generation on the same team, given the way that play style fits with Draymond and everyone else. And I'm assuming they're probably going to move off Kuminga soon or do a sign and trade. So you bring in more reliable assets. When that offense get on the heater with Dame and Steph,
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
Sure,
it'll be nice, but I feel like it's gonna be a little bit of a clash when you have, of course we're gonna see Draymond, Dame Lillard, Steph on the court at the same time. At times, they're probably gonna most likely be a starting lineup if this was to happen. My thing is that, okay, how is this all going to correlate well?
As far as
Draymond's a facilitator, Stephen Curry is a facilitator, can be a facilitator, more of a shooter. Okay, he can play more off of the ball. We've seen that a little bit in the past couple of years, especially when Clay's been gone, him playing that 2 role, and then Damian Lillard being a pure scorer. I just feel like there's going to be some type of clash where it may not work as good as we may think.
Well, first of all, Dame actually is a really good facilitator. He actually had his assists went up throughout his stint with Milwaukee since he got there. He averaged 7 assists last year, and I think him playing with Giannis kind of helped him understand how to play more without the ball. And then going into a system like Golden State, hypothetically, if he signs there, he can play more off the ball even more, and he's probably going to get even easier looks because regardless of the fact the defense is going to scheme first against Steph and try to get Steph off the ball and make him work for it. And now you have another lethal shooter who can shoot just from deep and on the court with him. Now it opens up the offense even more. And it's going to and we've seen Steph be able to play with another superstar and not be selfish. Draymond's all about playing to win first. And you can stagger their minutes, them as in Steph and Dame so well, it kind of won't interfere with their offense. Now, obviously, the biggest question with them, if he was to go to Golden State, would be the defense. I think that would be the biggest question mark.
Let me ask you this, Jimmy. He's on a 2-year deal.
Yes. Oh, and I almost forgot about Jimmy Butler.
That's another thing. I don't know, but I think when if Dame was to come and play, I think that contract would have to be figured out with Jimmy. I believe it's a 2-year deal. Not too sure.
Well, so that's what I was saying. Dame's contract, Dame going to the Warriors, it would work because he doesn't have to sign a big deal. He can sign a mid-level exception or get the veterans deal, so it won't hinder anyone else's money.
And he is still getting that bag from Milwaukee, so I think he's
that's
gonna
why.
get. Yeah,
Well, that's why I was saying, with that being the case, him wanting to play on a contender, I think it could work perfect sense. And again, I can't trust him if he wants to go back. He wants to be closer to home, from what the reports were, given his personal situation, everything he's been dealing with. Going back home to Oakland in the Bay Area, who says no to that? And I know the Warriors that haven't re-signed Gary Payton Jr. yet either. And Steve Kerr loves playing small ball. So, and they did lose Kevon Looney, but they still got Tracy Jackson Davis. They got Quinn Post. So I think it'll be nice to see just from the shooting standpoint and how the offense will look. But I would like to hear, what would you think would be the best fit for him? It doesn't have to be those three teams: Boston, Golden State, Lakers. It could be another team as well.
To be honest, yeah, I'm gonna go outside of that because Golden State, I'm 50-50. Boston, I just don't see the fact that you bring up the mid-level exception. Yeah, if they could make a deal like that, cool, but signing him to a big contract just doesn't make sense. Given that you just try to get yourself out of that tax bracket with the whole apron thing going on, and then JT's out. Of course, we know Dame Lillard is going to be out and not play this season, but I just don't really see the point in Boston doing that. It'll be nice, but outside of that, I would like to see him in maybe like in Miami, if they're able to keep the Tyler Heroes and the Bams around.
Which they be able to. I think they're under contract. So
yeah, I think I'm at least a contention team. I'm not going to throw him anywhere where Damian Lillard doesn't have the opportunity to win. And another team I was thinking about low key was Denver, but I think with all the signings and stuff like that, I don't think they would be able to work unless it was, like you said, a mid-level exception.
So Denver actually, because real quick, I'm gonna touch on the Denver part, and then I want to ask you a question with the Miami pick. Real quick for Denver, for those who don't know, Jonas Valanciunas is teetering going back home and playing for his home national team, due to some other situations going on. So if Jonas Valanciunas ends up going back home and leaving Denver, Denver doesn't take a hit on that contract, and they still have money to free up to sign another player like a Dame Lillard. However, to the Denver point, if Jonas is going to be on the move, the next best option Denver is most likely going to try to go get, and I would not mind to see him there if he was to leave Boston. That's Al Horford. Al Horford in that Denver offense, or even a Golden State offense, will look phenomenal. So that's just the situation going on with Denver. As far as my question for you when it comes to Miami, Dame going to Miami, does that make them a contender? Because I think he wants to go to a contender team, and I just don't see Miami as one of those teams that can contend. I think they'll be in the mix for like the play-in spot and stuff. But when I look at that roster, I don't see contention right now. And that's no slouch, because I love me Eric Spoelstra and what he does for teams that people don't look as the most talented and the household names. But at the same time, I just don't see him doing much with that roster.
Yeah, to answer that question, I don't think it would be on Dame. I don't think it would be on Spoelstra. I don't think it would be on Bam. I think the key piece in that is going to be Tyler Hero. I think when Tyler Hero has another star talent next to him, he's kind of compressed. We see what Tyler Hero can do when he doesn't have a star guard next to him. I just don't think Tyler Hero is enough to bring Miami with another co-star and still do what he do past that threshold. So if Dame is there, I'll probably give him a little bit higher than a plan, maybe especially with the East, not even counting injuries because everybody coming back the following season after that. If that was to happen, I could see Miami back in contention, maybe a top 5 seed, top 6 seed right out of the plan. But I definitely think Tyler Hero is the key piece for that team. It's just kind of hard pairing him up with another co-star kind of playing like similar to how he already plays.
Yeah. But to that point too, just for those who might be new watching, even if Dame wants to go to Miami, he's not going to be there to start the season. So And for Tyler Hero, he played like an All NBA caliber player last season. He had a phenomenal year for Miami. If Miami's going to be in serious contention, they got to add another piece, a legit star piece. I know I like Andrew Wiggins there as a filler at the wing who can be a two-way. I love Davion Mitchell, Mr. Off Night. But someone's going to have to step up. I expect Kylo Ware to get better, their rookie center from this past season, who I was very high on and coming out the draft. But someone else going to have to really step up their scoring output is going to be Bam. Bam averaged 18 and 10 last year.
Yeah, you hit the nail on that.
Bam is so talented, and I just expected him to get more.
We just want more.
Yeah, exactly. And I expected more output on the offensive end from the scoring output. I'm not asking him to give me 25 because if Bam's giving you 25 and 10, Miami's going to be a top 5 team for sure.
But I agree. I'm kind of like getting to the point where I'm tired of seeing the same stuff. It's just like, all right, when is your game going to take that next step?
I might be at the point where I just accept this is who Bam is, and
that's okay.
He's one of the elite defenders in the league, guards 1 through 5. I feel like his ceiling scoring output potentially could probably be around 22, maybe 23 and 8 to 10, 8 and 9, maybe because he's a really good playmaker. So I can see that if he stays around the 18, 19 point range, I can see him up in his assists probably to like 5. He averages 4 now, so maybe like a 5.5 difference. So, but definitely Bam's going to have to be more of a contributor on the offensive end, whether that's scoring or just facilitating more, getting easier looks for Tyler or Kyle Ware, which I think will be a great backcourt because Bam can finally play his true position, which I believe is the 4.
Yeah, no, that's fair.